This is the Homeless Oversight Committee for the ARP money through the Metro Council. April 26th, Council Lady Courtney Johnson and myself are in the House. The goal of this committee is to, one, ensure that the pace of the $50 million that we had authorized is spent well and in good pace and good priority level, and spent as designed from the legislation we had. Having said that, we are going to get a briefing from Director Calvin for tonight to get a sense of direction and what's going on in our oversight. We have now Council Lady Hauser and Welch, not Ginger, but okay. So we are ready to get started. The goal of this is to understand and get updated. We've had a little bit of a delay with some of the other legislation we've had, so we're catching up a little bit, but we're excited to hear what's going on. Director, take it away.
Hello, thank you all for coming. So there was a lot of questions that was submitted to us maybe in February and in March. I created a PowerPoint to do a presentation that will answer some of those questions. So we'll go through. It's a small crowd here, so I won't hold you all long. So I may run through some of this and then we'll move forward. So this is the Metro Council ARP Oversight Committee and ARP Homelessness Oversight Committee. This work is led by Executive Director Renee Pratt, myself as Interim Director, Stacey Horn-Koch, who is our consultant, and Amel Alexander from MDHA, along with Treva Gilligan, as it relates to the $25 million MDHA permanent housing, affordable gap loans. So kind of where we are and why we chose to go after the $50 million, there was some best practice alignments that we were looking to connect with. HUD-TA came, and these were some of their findings. Like we have Nashville, we have a high level of chronic homelessness. Unsheltered average length of stay outside is much larger than the national average. Encampment strategy, they had 4 top priority, 4 initiatives that they wanted us to work on, and an encampment strategy was one of them. So we decided to align with USIC's encampment plan. They have a post-pandemic, USIC is United States Inter-Council of Homelessness. So, so anyways, thank you. So they have a post-pandemic, they noticed also a post-pandemic surge in unsheltered homelessness. They created 7 guiding principles, and then they have a quick guide as well. So as we were looking forward to aligning with best practices, that's tools that we used. And also around this time, HUD released a special SNOFO, which is supplemental notice of funding. And there was 2 rounds. Unfortunately, Nashville did not receive any of those funds, but we were aligning ourselves in order to be able to receive those funds. And there were several things that we needed to do, and an encampment strategy was one as well. So one, also we're looking to become much more housing focused when it relates to the unsheltered population, and then pushing the community towards aligning with other best practices. And as I talk about best practices, in 2019, there was a large overarching strategic plan that had 4 major components. And then all of a sudden, we maybe was 6 months into that and COVID hit. So we are going through a strategic plan refresh and narrowing down those 4 components to become 2. One will be more urgent and responsive as a community, and then aligning with best practices and accountability. As we started moving in that direction, the mayor requested a study on the performance study here in Nashville. And things that Stacey Horn-Koch study revealed was, one, we needed to target chronic homelessness because they were staying outside a lot longer, and people in our community had stated that we have been housing those that were easy to house as a community. Also creating a standalone office, restructuring our homeless planning council, and then doing a needs assessment as well. So here we are with the $50 million investment. And this slide kind of shows where what we applied for, $25 million for affordable gap loans, $9 million in interim housing, $9 million in support services, $9 million in it's really $7 million in landlord engagement, totaling those two. I worked on this slide with someone else and the numbers are off, but I'll correct that before we send it out. Shelter Committee created, so as we were working on the $50 million, Shelter Committee created a community outdoor housing strategy. It was drafted by a lot of community involvement, had the largest input from people with lived experience than ever in Nashville's history that I can remember, and I've only been doing this work for about 22 years. Let's see, and then the Homeless Planning Council approved that strategy along with the Shelter Committee. And then the $9 million of interim gap housing was designed for the housing surge. One of the questions asked, what's the rationale for a housing surge? I do want to be clear that there's a difference between a camp sweep and a housing surge. Those that are experiencing homelessness, they've been outside for a long time and they have a higher mortality rate. With the camp sweep, they will also have a higher mortality rate when you're just pushing people down the road and not providing them the resources and the housing that's needed. 2021, 2022, we had higher than abnormal deaths of people living outside. And we know that not just Nashville, but nationally, and Nashville's on target for that as well, shortened lifespan of those that are experiencing homelessness, and it's shortened by 17 to 20 years. Camps are unfit for human habitation. And actually, I have calls with parks and MNPD, and on a call about maybe 3 weeks ago, they informed me that they've put out 200 bait blocks for rodents in Brookmead, and it's still going strong. And so when I hear that, so when I have to think about my why, those are reasons for my why. Let's see. So part of that encampment strategy creates a prioritization team. There is a prioritization team that is a community effort. There's agencies actively involved in that, and they identify the camps. They've identified top 5, and they went to 3 out of the top 5, and we've been successful with 2 of those so far. And it is prioritization based on people's vulnerability, the location, safety, and in other environmental concerns. So, actuals, here we are talking about that 200 bait blockers, human trafficking. There's a lot of deplorable situations for people that are living in camp, along with the loss of hope. Here we are, 4 months in review, 4 months. Seems like it's been 10 years. I'm just kidding. 4 months. So 2 camps closed in 4 months, and there's the notice dates and the notice time. Typically, we will always give 30 to 45-day notice, and even against better judgment, sometimes we will still give 30 to 45-day notice. For example, Wentworth Caldwell Park, flood season was about to happen. This is a terrible time for that camp and that location, because 3 years ago we lost individuals due to floods coming in, flash floods coming in the middle of the night. So here we are. We assess the camps 3 to 4 times before even giving a notice. We have a number. The day that we actually give the notice, that's the number of people in our CE means coordinated entry. That's the number of people in our coordinated entry. So for Brookmead, there was 41 people in coordinated entry on the day that we gave notice. 53 people were housed. And that means there's a little bit of a housing surge afterwards. So people in the in the surrounding area may come to that camp for housing. And then also that Brookmead was dangerously low temperatures. You'll remember right there at Christmas when a lot of us were wanting to be at home and on vacation and spending time with family. These individuals were experiencing dangerously low temperatures. Wentworth Caldwell Park, there we are. Coordinated entry was 23 on the day of notice, and 41 people were housed. There's a lot of people that live in the surrounding areas. We were really clear to be true to our prioritization team. We were housing people that actually lived in the camp, not doing a district-wide housing surge, but just clearing the people that actually lived in the camp. So there's multiple people that lived in the surrounding area that actually came over and even said, advocates sent me here, and gave the name of those agencies and organizations that sent them there for a housing surge. And that's how our number went up to 41. Methodology on, that was another question that was submitted to me. What's your methodology on closing Caldwell Park, right? We use a housing first approach. The notice was provided prior to the camp, and we have a by name list initially with no more than 23 people on it by the day that we noticed the camp. And at that point in time, we will design the number of housing units. We always try to have double of that. So for 23 people, we had 50 units of housing readily available. 32 in interim gap housing, 25 in shared housing. I didn't put that in the overall number that we discussed a few minutes ago, but there is shared housing for people that receive disability income. There's a lot of people that receive disability income, whether it's through SOAR or any other options, that still live outside because they are not able to afford housing on their own with the $750 income at that point. So. And then we move forward from there. There's a move week. We don't do it all on one day, and we don't try to push it to the last day. We do it in a week's increments. We plan with the interim housing locations or some of our people that actually have Section 8 vouchers in their pockets. We plan with them. We try to do 5 to 10 a day, depending on what our system can hold for that day, so that it's not so traumatic on the very last day. We work closely with Lowe's, Walmart. We offer storage bins so that they can move with dignity instead of moving with trash bags. Councilmember Johnston was instrumental in starting an initiative that was something we worked with Reclaim Brookmead on as well, helping to get care package and care kits for their next place. So that was anything from a Swifter to sheets, blankets, pillows, towels, really nice package that they were able to move in with. And then we do it where we're at now from Caldwell Park, which is a post-camp review. Some other supporting information that was along the lines of the questions that was asked as well. Just want to make sure that, 5 years ago, we used to say people don't want housing and that they wanted to stay outside. What we've learned from Jefferson Street, Brookmead, Caldwell, Wentworth Park is people actually want housing and they need someone to help them find hope. Also, understanding that there's fear that comes along with that housing as well. So as we help them with processing that fear, these are some other things. 17 additional people were housed from Caldwell Park that were not on the initial coordinated entry list. The list continues to grow simply because people are continuing to add to that list saying they were in the surrounding area. Want to be real clear, we did not agree to house the surrounding area, just the footprint of Caldwell Park. There was a question about bus passes. Bus passes was provided to people that did not actually live in the park, but showed up saying that advocates sent them there. And they were not on the coordinated entry list, so the very last day of camp, we gave them bus passes to go back to wherever their items were being stored or wherever they were actually staying. Oh, and then we also worked with, they're giving them options. That was another question. Why would we give them options to go to the Nashville Rescue Mission? And we are aware that people typically don't, if they're staying outside, they typically won't go into shelter, but they were not a part of a housing surge. So we wanted to make sure that they had opportunity in case that was a choice that they wanted to make. So here, from camps to where, right? 132 people have been housed in interim housing, whether it's emergency shelter options that's available, the hotel conversion option that the Salvation Army is running, or the mobile housing navigation centers that CCF is operating. Of that, there's been 37 permanent housing solutions, and here's a list of all of those solutions: shared housing, recovery beds, permanent supportive housing, rapid rehousing, MDHA. A lot of them qualify for MDHA senior or disability sites, and then voucher options. I want to talk a little bit about the voucher options real quick. MDHA took us to task, because that's one of the other questions. It may be on the next. Well, let's stay here before I move on. There is a 3% return to homelessness in 4 months of 132 people moving from encampments. To me, that's a pretty good rate, because if you look at our overall recidivism rate for our systems performance measures, I have Hannah here. I don't know where she's at, but get up here. So our recidivism rate for our systems performance measure is at an all-time low as well. I think 3 to 5%. So additional questions that were submitted included some of these answers here. Like, the goal is to house people in 90 days. The average stay is 30 to 120 days. Someone asked, how do we expect to do that? Well, what we've realized is there's been a lot of outreach in the community helping to sustain life, and that is vital. But what's not happening is helping people to get their vital documents that's needed for moving on into permanent housing. So we have had several agencies to actually communicate with outreach, large group, maybe over 50 people on a call, explaining how to get vital documents while they're living outside. If you're working with someone that's lived outside for 5 years and you fed them a nice warm meal for 5 years, you should absolutely help them move on to the next level of housing. So helping them to get documents, birth certificates, that's the best way, getting them entered into our coordinated entry system. That is the best way to get someone housing. Also want to be clear, we're not only housing people that actually live in an outdoor encampment, we're housing people from shelter through our coordinated entry system and other people that are being entered into coordinated entry throughout the city. So this encampment work, it is probably just a third of the work that's actually going on in our housing efforts. The vouchers access, that was another question, like, why are we diverting vouchers to this population? I love that question. I wanted to say MDHA called a meeting for me and my coordinated entry team and SHK consultant and took us to task. As a community, we are severely underutilizing vouchers, and it's not just underutilizing as far as connecting them to landlords. It's underutilizing them to even get them signed up and applied for. And it kind of goes back to, we're not getting birth certificates and IDs while people are outside in those camps. You can use that one. While people are outside in the encampments. So not diverting vouchers, but also while people are in those encampments, their coordinated entry score is extremely high because it's based on their vulnerability. And when we started closing camps, we realized they were either really high on the coordinated entry list, but maybe outreach workers had not actually completed the voucher system. So we have done a sharp pivot in my office. We have 3 months to get about 40 vouchers out the door, and we have till September to get about 75 additional vouchers leased up. So that's 125. My math may be off, but it's on a slide here. That we are being tasked with driving our community. I think as we look to become a housing-focused community and expanding capacity, using funds to expand the capacity of agencies, I think we will hit that mark. I know I'm going long, so I'm just going to move fast. There was a question about support services. 25 support services are provided to those people that were removed from camp, but utilizing over 27 agencies. This is just a small list, so I'm going to move fast and not want to name anyone, because if their name or their agency is not on that list, I don't want to get those calls. And then future support services. So we knew we had the services in our community that could help with the housing surge, but we also knew that we needed to help expand that capacity. So we released the $9 million support service funds. Somebody had questions about the delay on, 2 occasions, agencies during the actual bidders conference, agencies asked us to extend that 30 days. And then during the negotiation period, there was an extension that was asked on their behalf as well. But I'm pleased to announce that we have actually one agency that's already, you guys, Metro Council has already approved that contract, as a matter of fact. And then the others, so it's fully executed at this point in time. And then the other 5 agencies are in the various stages of contracts and agreements, which should come to you the month of May. When I say you, Metro Council, for the month throughout the month of May, either the 1st or the 2nd Metro Council meeting, so that those services can begin June 1st. Community-based, housing retention, assertive community teams, intensive case management, all made referrals through our coordinated entry, so that we're dovetailing this work of permanent housing and providing the support services that go along with it. Post-pandemic is post-encampment closure is kind of where we are. We do 3 large debriefings and a large outreach meeting and a leadership meeting, and also with the prioritization team. I was informed that someone said that they did not feel as though the debriefing should live within the large group outreach meeting, but those are the participants that actually know the individuals and know their circumstances. So I absolutely feel that the large group, it's over 50 people on that call. And I believe that that's where it should live. And then we go through a phase of decompressing, and that's kind of where we are now. And then when you think of decompressing, where do they go, right? This is new housing options. Within the next 6 to 18 months, we will have 758 total units of housing available, which is huge. So anything from Shangri-La, who you guys have heard about quite some time, I think they're going through their zoning process, and they have the support services to come along with it through the $9 million, and they actually offered to provide services for 150 support services. 100 additional, thank you. And let's see. So just some tips on how we make progress together. I think systems change is extremely difficult for our community, extremely difficult, and we're moving at a super fast pace because we have time-limited funding. So I think that for some people, we may not be moving fast enough, but I think for our service providers, we're trying to keep at a pace that helps them as well. ARP investment progress, here we are, $50 million, temporary interim housing, $9 million, the GAP funds for loans, $25 million, Housing First Support Services, interim housing, here we are. Salvation Army has housed 78 people, and I'm going to move past this slide because we actually have the address there. I think everybody in the whole world knows the address by now, but I think we try to, because this is recorded, we try to not allow that address to be made public. And I can stop talking now because I think this is where Emil, who is fresh off of paternity leave, can talk a little bit about the permanent supportive housing options and the awards. Welcome back.
Welcome.
Just hold on just a second. Okay. Hold just a second. This is not my normal space here. You got it. Can you hear? Go ahead, try.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. All right, so I'll give an update on the permanent supportive housing program. I know Angela was here the month before last with a brief update. It went before MDHA's board in March, and the applications were approved after they were evaluated by independent evaluation committee. For those who were not at the February or January meeting, that evaluation committee consisted of a member of this Metro Council, a member of Metro Finance, and the RFA was also reviewed and approved by Metro Legal before MDHA released it to ensure it was consistent with the resolution and the program that the council passed. We awarded funding to 5 different projects. 3 of the projects are repayables, 2 are forgivable loans to nonprofit organizations, consistent with, I think it was a $5 million cap that was approved with the resolution. The total award amount is a little bit over $10.1 million to produce 63 units under this program, and we are in the process of finalizing those developer agreements, but also finalizing the agreements between the developer and MHEAD for supportive services and to ensure that, that arrangement is worked out. The next slide sort of provides an outline of each of those projects and sort of when they are anticipated to come online. I think, as April said, it's a range between 6 and 18 months, which is what was included in the presentation to council members. I will put a caveat: these are construction projects, and if you've had a project done at your home, timelines can change, but if they do change from this, we'll be sure to make this body aware of that. We have the first units beginning to come online as early as May of 2023, and the latest units coming online as late as August of 2024. Sure.
Thank you for recognizing me. Just while you're on this, I just wanted to ask, the 638 total affordable housing units, what is the, do you have a breakdown of the AMI, percentage AMI of those affordable housing units?
I don't have it with me, but I can get it to you.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank
Sure.
you.
Council Lady Hauser, just a minute.
Of the 638 housing units, are all those are affordable, and are they in with market rate units, or are these totally affordable housing locations?
So the affordable ones are affordable. Again, I don't have that breakdown with me, but I'll give that information to you so I can make sure I'm giving you accurate information.
Question answered. Council Lady Evans.
Thank you. I just wanted to know on the projects where they're going to be repaid. One of the things that I learned on the scoring side is how long it can take before the repayment piece kicks in. Do you have that referenced on another slide, or is that something you can provide back to the group?
I don't have it on the slide, but I certainly can provide that back to you as well.
Thank you.
Sure.
And when will you be able to get that back to us, some of these questions?
You want to actually, Treva printed out her copy so she can come up and
Good job.
That's very fast. We're good with that.
Please understand we're still in the stage of negotiation and finalizing the developer agreements, but based on what we have right now, it looks like the tax credit projects will actually start repayment in years 14 through 17, and then they'll continue for like another various terms, which we will also extend the affordability period as long as the repayments are being made. We're in the process of trying to negotiate 2% interest on those. One project is proposing to start partial repayment immediately, but have a balloon payment in year 10. So that's the way the proposed structures are at the present time.
Yeah, Councilor Evans.
So I think this is more of a question for maybe is Ms. Darby still here? So when it comes to like the finance side of this, like the, hearing 14 to year 17, does that mean that in year 14 from now, that council body is going to have to wait for future opportunities to go through this process, if there's like a repayment pool? Or will it be because it's a loan and it's guaranteed and all that jazz, would the body be able to move forward with like other financing opportunities in the future? Are we going to have to wait till we have cash basically from the repayment?
I think, if you.
Well, and I don't mean our body necessarily. I'm just talking about in general, the idea of, is it going to continue on, or we're going to have to wait till the cash is back in Metro's hands?
I'm going to have to go with Councilmember Johnston here and staff if MDHA has control of the funding and it doesn't come back to Metro.
Yes, I understand, but I don't know if I'm totally being clear, but I can take it offline.
So I think it's been a minute since I looked at it, but the original way we wrote this resolution, the funding would come back to us as program income. We would account for it each year in our CAPER and our annual action plan, and that funding would be used to build support services for the homeless, and we would outline in each year in that particular plan.
Quick follow. Other questions? Just as a quick, is there sort of a forecast of those flows back to the program?
We can get that to the council members.
Yeah, I think there's value there so that we can actually see, maybe a 5-10 year horizon of that coming back, so we have a better sense of how's that coming back and sort of an accountability commitment.
Okay.
Thank you.
We can do that.
Other questions? Yeah, Councilor Welch. Just a minute. I'm just. Got it.
Thank you. Yeah, I have some questions that kind of go back to some of the concerns that I've had throughout this entire, since we allocated the money, in terms of feeling like we're not looking at things comprehensively and kind of putting the cart before the horse. The report on the PIT count for this year is going to show that homelessness is up 9% in Nashville year over year from last year. And even though unsheltered homelessness is down by 9%, sheltered homelessness is up by 17%. And I think I see why this is happening just from some of this report, because we're not permanently housing people. We're putting people using mobile housing navigation centers as shelters, as opposed to housing, search centers, which they're supposed to be. I know many of the mobile housing navigation centers, City Road, for example, people are staying there a year. They're not meant to be shelters. And so we mentioned that there are some vouchers that are going to come online. Well, do we actually have landlords who are going to take those vouchers? We know what's driving so much of this increase. Part of this increase in homeless numbers here in Nashville is like evictions are out of control. We are actually evicting between 300 and 400 people a week right now in Nashville. And we don't seem to have a comprehensive plan to address this. One of the things that I brought in front of the ARP committee was to have some money to replace money that was running out that we allocated earlier. And I fear that we're kind of seeing some of the problems with not continuing the dollars, and that's why homelessness has actually gone up. So I just like to know how much of the housing we're saying all these people are housed, how much of this is actually permanent. It doesn't sound like much of it is. It's all kind of temporary, and it's shelters. And that is not going to get us ahead of this homelessness problem. That's the way that we keep going.
Okay. Yeah, who would like to answer?
I think that the council member, I think we need to take a look at the national. Is this working?
Just a minute. I have to figure out. Try it now.
Okay. So homelessness is actually up across the country. I think that you're going to see that trend, period, throughout the nation. A lot of it does have to do with an increase in first-time homelessness. But there is significant evidence that shows if you let unsheltered and chronically homeless people linger within a system and continue to house people who would otherwise be able to bring themselves out of homelessness with little support, instead of throwing your housing resources at them, then that is the way to unclog the system. In a system where you don't have an adequate and readily available supply of affordable housing, and where you have a large portion of the homeless population that are unsheltered and even in shelters who are not being given intakes into HMIS, who are not being entered into the coordinated entry system. You know, there's like this road jam that is moving them. So you do need to move people out of unsheltered situations, because evidence nationally shows that their lifespans are shorter. Women experience far more violence, men experience far more violence, but women in particular receive even more than that. And so in an area where we don't have people, where outreach has not been getting the documentation to make them housing ready when they're met out in the encampments or even in the shelters, then it takes a little bit longer for us to move them in. And so one of the best practices nationwide is to actually use interim gap housing to put them into a place for a short period of time in order to be able to have them all in one place where they can get their paperwork done, where we can contract with a neighborhood health to help us get all of their medical records to prove their disabilities. We can connect them to a SOAR team, and they are not transient out in the community, moving from one shelter to another or from one encampment to another, a place where we can provide the wraparound services initially to get them set up to be as successful and move into permanent housing with the wraparound services there to keep them there. And so I don't think that the increase here in Nashville or in the nation is due to concentrating on building affordable housing. There's only one way to get it done, and that's to build it or to buy it that's already on the ground, but it always takes time, and then you need the resources to attach any vouchers with. April's new landlord engagement program has really knocked it out of the park. As of April, she had 503 available units. But also, to your point, I'm certain that evictions are up pretty much everywhere, and Nashville is a very expensive place to live. And so it is incumbent upon us to put more resources into getting people signed up, by bringing landlords on, having the people that we can get qualified for disability, doing the paperwork ahead of time so that when MDHA has once again been our best partner. We get a significant amount of resources a month from them to house people. And if we continue to house the most vulnerable, the most chronic people, then we will remove the log jam from the shelters and other places where we can use, and we still have to do diversion. So as you talk about evictions, we do have to do more prevention, where we have legal teams on to prevent evictions, and where we have rental assistance, to short-term rental assistance to help people not get thrown out of, get evicted, and provide them with some help raising their income, all the things that HUD uses to grade a community on how high it performs. And so we do have a lot of work to do, but in order to do it, we need to start leveling the playing field, and we need to start saving people's lives. People are dying outside in encampments, where at the same time we're moving people out of shelters. And so it's, this is not an uncommon model, and it is something that some of the cities that have moved the needle most significantly use.
Councilor Welch, or go ahead.
Also, I want to talk a little bit about prevention and diversion. We're working with United Way on prevention and diversion efforts. They actually have what's called a fan committee that I used to be a part of in a former life, where they are working on prevention and diversion efforts, and I believe that probably lives a little bit in Metro Action and Metro Social Services world. So, and speaking, I have another call with them, with United Way tomorrow about prevention and diversion. I do believe we have to stop the inflow as we're still working on the outflow.
First-time homelessness.
Councilor Welch, other question?
Yeah, I mean, you and I know that we disagree on the idea that the most vulnerable people are ones that are just in encampments, and that's who we're focusing on right now. And there have been many deaths in the shelters too, as you know, since we've started this process. Are you concerned that partner providers are not entering people into MHIS? Because I don't know of any agencies who are not actually entering the data about people that they're doing outreach with in the streets and whatever.
I would say I am concerned. There's two different things there. There's one is HMIS, and then there's coordinated entry, which is a mode that's in HMIS. So there's several service providers that's utilizing HMIS, but not necessarily utilizing coordinated entry. If
And
we
vice versa.
Yeah, and vice versa. Sometimes they may do coordinated entry, but not doing both. And if we enter a camp and there is 23 people in coordinated entry, and that was a targeted approach. For example, Brookmead, we've been providing services there for, over 2 years. And so I guess the concern is just, and we've talked about this in our HMIS and coordinated entry team, just ensuring that, how do we ensure that they actually do both? Because if you do coordinated entry, it's just a couple of more steps to actually do HMIS.
And that also allows us to be, so some of that is why we don't have as much, like this year, some of our data is better, which also accounts for some of, so we have been doing a better job, and so there's more people that have been entered into the system. But when outreach doesn't enter somebody that they meet on the street into just basic HMIS, then that kind of hinders the system's ability to figure out how, their length of homelessness, which is part of how you determine whether or not somebody is chronically homeless or, episodically homeless. And so there is still quite a bit of missing data. I think Hannah's been doing a great job. I heard her give, on the large outreach call today, give a great plea for everybody that does outreach to enter in. And if you want to talk about specifics, maybe you could talk to Hannah offline. I don't know that we need to put every agency out in the public.
I won't do that.
No, and that's not my intention. Okay. My last is just a concern that we've seen since we have started closing down encampments, that the state has stepped up now and they are closing down encampments throughout neighborhoods and simply displacing people and moving people with no place to go, and they're doing it without necessarily the knowledge of, and there was one on Murfreesboro Pike that y'all weren't aware of, and no one was aware of. Someone was driving by and went, the state is taking down this encampment, and that is happening more and more, and it's an unintended consequence of focusing on encampments. It's kind of giving the state this permission. They were kind of hanging back and not doing anything, or if they were going to close, they would let us be aware that they were going to close on an encampment, but this is happening kind of all over the place. I'm seeing it in my district. I know that just encampments are being swept away, and no one knows where the people are ending up, so it's not really helping us in the long run.
I've been a part of those conversations from day one. So July, when that bill passed for the state to, move people off public land, Jay and I went to them and said, hey, give us a chance. We're working on an encampment strategy. We're building up funds. We had a process, and we asked them to wait. And what they're wanting is swift movement, and they feel as though they see things like this where our community is not agreeing. I'm on calls with them at least once a month asking them to wait, and what they've said to me is is you guys are not moving fast enough. And they know that we're going to continue. I've sworn that we're going to continue to stick with the encampment strategy that our community has approved. They would like for us to divert these funds in order to help the people that they want to clear off of their property. They agreed to wait until the $50 million, until we had a strategy. But, and, you know, there's a couple of camps where it affects, like the Caldwell Park actually affects some of their land. So 2 of the other properties have actually been part of state land, but they have their own initiative as well. I believe that someone from the mayor's office even asked on a call, asked them to, what state services, what state funding do you bring to this? You know, do you get the Department of Mental Health and Addictions to be a part of this? Do you bring THDA and their resources? Can all be Metro's resources that's deployed and deterred from what our community has decided that they want to use those funds on?
Thank you, Councilor Welch. Everything good? I have a follow-up question to that a little bit. Is there a place that we can anticipate that, or do we just not get the information until the last minute? Knowing that we probably will get this happening, is there any way to anticipate?
So I have a new outreach worker that's working closely with TDOT on, they identified 30 properties, and they have 130 people living on their property. 30 locations with 130 people living on their property, and they want us as Metro to move all of these $50 million in resources to the attention of that population first. We have explained to them for community buy-in, we have a strategy, we have a policy, we have a system in place, and if they could work with us. So I have a new outreach worker that I have dedicated to spend 50% of her time working closely with TDOT and identifying locations, making sure that those people are actually entered into coordinated entry, because a bulk of them are not. So we're working on a plan, but they just want a swift plan pretty fast. And so as they continue to move, they will not give me a list of dates, times, and when, and I think they're looking for some of the one-offs, like if there's 1 or 2 people under a bridge, that may be something that as a community we can absorb the shock of, whether it's in an interim gap housing or getting them entered into coordinated entry. Most likely their vulnerability score will be higher than, you know, some of the other populations that we encounter regularly. So we are working on a plan with them. We've had monthly calls with them, and we will continue.
Thank you very much. Other questions? Director Calvin, any other information?
No, I believe we are. Any
other comments? Councilor Johnson, you look like you got something to say. Okay.
Thanks. I was really pleased with how our encampment was closed and how everything was treated, and I was part of it for multiple reasons. Number one, from an education perspective, because I certainly had preconceived notions, and I mentioned that in the debrief. And so that was helpful to learn about the population, and that they do want to be housed, and why that notion that people think that, because there's just a lot of reasons. We don't need to get into it, but I was really pleased to see how the Homeless Impact Division worked together and really absorbed a lot. I mean, it was a really good community effort. My community was so behind it, and I kept them informed all the way. They were we raised over $5,000 from individuals that wanted to help and be a part of housing these neighbors. And so we're excited to have the park cleaned. We're excited that people are housed, and it was a really good process, and I was proud to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll be closing. Interim Director Calvin, great job. Appreciate all the details. Great team. I did also with the Brookmead, and just a great professional group. a couple follow-up questions just as a process. Number one is we'll continue to try to meet the second council meeting of each month. For that process, forward any questions you might have the Wednesday before the meeting, just so that the director can be prepared with any answers. On the next one, I don't know when your budget meeting is, but if you have a chance, if it's probably too late, but I think it would be of value for us to understand how you're anticipating some of the problems and what we're going to do to move forward. I think there would be a value for this group to make sure we understand that. Other than that, any other things? We are closed, and thanks for everybody to being here. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.